Welcome back, everyone. It's Bewdu here. I'm going to be doing a tier list. I've never done one of these before. I know a lot of people don't like these, and some people do like them. I think it's constructive enough for beginning players to see opinions of others with weapons. I do understand that everything is situation-based, and I do think that there is a lot in this game that will benefit from all of these weapons. So all of them are good. There's better ones that shine in certain circumstances. So I'm just gonna do it based on my opinion. In no way is this based off of stats and calculating everything up. So I'll start here with the bow. I was not very impressed with it. I was thinking about doing something kind of like a ranger, but there were no kind of pets or anything, and so I used it in the first open beta, and I was not too impressed by it. It seemed like the hitbox is a little bit better than the hitbox for the bow seemed a little bit worse than the musket, so I thought it was easier to land shots with the musket. The bow does give a lot of utility, but if I were to only use the bow, I would put that down as a C tier. It's a slow reload compared to being able to just have a fire staff where you just light attack real quick, or any of the melee weapons, which are quick attacks. There's no reload to that. The abilities are easy enough to miss, or you can shoot them down thinking someone's going to walk to that location and then they just walk around your ability. So there's a lot of wasted time there. But it can be used very, very well in wars or certain circumstances, like if you're fighting on a bridge. There's no escape being hit. It makes it so much easier to play with a bow. So we'll move on here. Next, we're going to go to the fire staff. I don't have a ton of experience with it. I found it to not be that great early game where you don't have the passives and everything. So if you plan to flag for PvP right away, fire staff is going to be a little bit harder. It's very much all about its light attacks for the most part. The abilities, yes, are very strong, but if you miss your light attacks, you may not be able to finish people off. And usually you want to stay ranged to be able to do said light attacks and not take damage. The burnout ability gives a lot of mobility. It gives a ground AoE. If you step on it, you're going to get a dot. So it does create a way of trying to cut someone off from running across, let's say, said a bridge or so on and so forth. It has great AoE abilities, so in war it will be really good. But then again, the light attacks will make it much harder. So I'm gonna put this onto B tier just for that. I think it is one of the better ranged weapons that's out there, and we will move on now to the great axe. There's not too much more to say. The great axe, the two-hand, I think right now is a little bit too powerful. I think that it does need a little bit of tuning. I don't really understand how they could do it. I do think that the mobility that great axe gives you is fantastic with its heavy attacks that pulls enemies to you, even though it seems like it's more or less you getting pulled to the enemy. Gravity well holds everyone in place for X amount of time. I guess maybe they could change that or make the radius smaller. But that, on top of having the ability to heavy attack to pull you or the target to you, on top of having charge, which is a huge mobility, it feels like it's the same distance as what the fire staff has with the I forget the name of the ability. I just said it a moment ago. Their charge type of ability, and it's just high damage altogether with super mobility and AoE root in a sense from Gravity Well. So I'm going to put that as an S tier here. And then we're going to go to the Hatchet. I do think Hatchet is very good. Everyone will probably say S tier, S tier. But I think the reason the Hatchet did so well was because the Great Axe has such good abilities, and then the Hatchet gives you some type of survivability with the Berserk. It's going to give you not only a damage boost by 20%, but a speed boost by 20%, and you're also getting a huge heal over time based off of your health. And it also removes CC, and you can't be staggered. That one ability is huge, but at the same time, it's not end all be all, the best ability in the game for all situations. You also get a leap attack, which you can argue is kind of a gap closer. The light attacks, it's 3 light attacks, which are super fast and are pretty much on par with all the rest of the weapon attacks. You also have the capability of putting a passive in for the throwing of the axes, which you can't block, which some argue is bad, but that does give you the chance of having a ranged ability if you choose to use one of these other melee, like the rapier, the spear, the great axe, warhammer. You can still have some type of range to finish off someone with low health who's running away, and it's very mobile because of the speed that you get. So I'm gonna actually put that on A tier. I'm not gonna put it to S because Berserk only really benefits yourself. So if you get in a bigger group fight, it may not be as great, but it is a very, very strong weapon. And then we'll move over here to the Ice Gauntlet now. Ice Gauntlet is very good for a lot of situations, PvE, PvP. It has AoE slows, AoE roots, it has AoE damage. It's a ranged ability, so you can just light attack people down as you run. You also can give a slow or a speed buff to allies who run through one of your wall of elements. It gives a 25% speed buff. You can also get an Entomb, so people who played WoW will know it's kind of like an ice block, so you become a thing of ice, and it has its own health, and you can break free from that, and it gives you a little bit time to get your cooldowns back, or it makes it so that people change targets, and now you're far away and you can attack again. There's so much to it that I'm gonna also put this on A tier. I think it is a fantastic weapon, and I think it'll be used a little bit more than the Fire Staff. I do see these two weapons being used together, but I'm going kind of based off of the weapon on its own. So I would put Fire Staff B+, but this A-, I guess. So we'll move over to the Life Staff. So this is a little, I don't know, I think everyone agrees. It's the only weapon in the game that gives consistent healing to everyone within the party. It's the only thing that scales from focus. It's the only thing that has a way to have all your abilities heal. Huge buff. Only source of main healing. Stacking heals can be good too if people do this as an off weapon. So you have one healer and you have 2 more people just with the ground heal. You pretty much don't even have to move. It's just the only dedicated healer, and I'll put that in the S tier. I don't think you can really argue about that one. So we'll move on now to the Musket. This one I have started to fall in love with a lot more. It's hard to hit, kind of like the bow. You do get a couple ultimates at the end, where one is like a zoom in. So if you plan to be far away from objective points for PvP, it'll be much easier to aim and get headshots from distances, maybe far enough away to where even if someone started to try to charge towards you, it would take them way too long to get to you. So if you think you'd lose the fight, you can run away, or you can just snipe them down as they continue running towards you. I do enjoy the traps in the game as well that the Musket has. So you can throw down a trap, someone stands in it, they're immobile, and you have the capability of getting 2 traps. They don't do any damage, but if someone's standing still and you have ranged and your team has ranged, typically you can deal a lot of damage, and you can't roll out of that. So it's kind of, you have to min-max and see how it's going to be presenting itself here in the future based off of you deal enough damage to use the trap. You don't need a secondary ability to do damage. And something I discovered in the last beta, some people might not know, is that with the muskets, you get these overload abilities where you charge your musket, and you can actually leave your weapon charged for however long, I think until you log out or until you shoot it. It even stays charged when you switch weapons. So you can charge your weapon and have it charged while you're running about, and your cooldowns reset. So you can have your burn shot go off, and you can have a snipe ability that slows. And you can do them back to back, and I think it's very powerful, and it can be competitive. I think it just has a higher skill cap than said these S or A tier weapons here. There's also a fun ability where you get down on one knee essentially, and you aim and you get the chance to shoot 3 rapid fire shots because the recharge of the weapon doesn't take long at all, and you can up it to 5. So if someone else is taking the focus and they're kind of standing still, you can chunk the enemy's health super easily. So with this, I'm still gonna put it down as a B tier. I'm not putting it A because I don't. If you miss your ability so often, or someone's good at dodging, you're just not dealing damage and you can't do anything about it. So I'm gonna put it at B tier. I feel that it's a lot more useful than the bow. The damage it deals when you hit is much higher, I feel, than the bow, and I think the hitbox is bigger as well. I could be wrong. It could just be a personal preference, but this is my opinion here. All right, we'll go on to the rapier. The problem I see with the rapier here is, I wrote this down that I was going to put this down as a B tier. But the more and more I think about it, when we're doing just each individual weapon, not talking about combos. I mean, I have talked a little bit about combos, but when I do the rating, it's based off of the individual weapon for the most part. So the rapier I see as a secondary weapon. Sure, you can deal and finish off people with the rapier. It's very good to do that. But I'd put it at like a C+, B-. It's quick in attacks, but it doesn't have too much survivability. You have a 1 second. If they hit you, you return and you could stun them and do damage. But it's 1 second. So if the player sees you do it, they just stop for a second and your ability is completely useless. You both stopped, so no damage was dealt. Not a big deal. And now they don't have a stun. They wasted an ability. No damage came out from that ability. It's just not that great. So if you do look at it, though, rapier does have a very good ability that allows you to gap close or to run away. The fletch is great for that. That's what it's called. Let's see here. So the mobility you get from it, it's okay because of the fletch. And the quick attacks to finish people off can be good, but I think it's better as a secondary weapon than it is to main as of level 1 to 35 at least. All right, I'm going to go over here now to the spear. I personally wanted spear to be super great. I do find that the mobility with spear is not the greatest. I think that the attack, like when you do a light attack, most weapons will make you move forward. With the spear, your spear goes forward and comes back, so you don't actually close any gap while you attack. Well, almost every other weapon that's not ranged does that. So it can be good if you play, I guess, defensively. So people are coming to you, you can reach out, attack, and you're further from them, so they do have to be more mobile. But I found that a lot of players between at least 1 to 35, if you're fighting, you either fight to the death or they're just completely running away. So you do seem to need some kind of mobility. I think spear gets better as you progress in levels. Spear has a lot of crowd control, so it has a knockdown with a spear throw. It has, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but you can swipe out their feet from under them, and while they're on the ground, you can stab them again. You also have the vault kick, which you fling in the air, you kick them in the face, and they're stunned for, I want to say it's 1.5 seconds. So there's a lot of CC that's here. It's hard to get it. I think the vault kick is the only one that could technically be an AoE stun if you hit multiple people with it, but I haven't tested that. So I think spear will have its day at cap level, but until then, I don't think it's as powerful. It does have a lot of cooldown reduction. So I'm going to put it, because I'm biased here, I like the spear, I want it to be good, I'm going to put it as B. I do think it can do much better if it was comboed with something else. But you're lacking a lot of mobility. You have a lot of CC, but the second, let's say you fight someone with a hatchet, they have berserk, your CC is useless, your damage is a little bit slower, a little bit less with your abilities if you choose to go the CC route, I feel, and you don't really have a defensive outside of the possible CCs. So that's why I'll put it at a B-, C+. All right, this one is, I'm still debating. I think I might put it up there just because Sword and Board is Sword and Board. It's the main way to tank. It's the main way to block. If you have a gem, you can do AoE taunting. I do even think it has a place in PvP where you do small scale, or even in wars, because you can block, you can increase people's damage around you, you can decrease how much damage people around you have. So because this is the main way of tanking, because it has so much utility with that, and with being able to buff other players around you and increase your own survivability, so you can actually stay there as a constant buff, people won't target you. And you got CCs with your rush knockdown, you have your sword bash, which is a stun, and one of the main abilities people use is kind of like a charge, is a gap closer. So I'm gonna put this at an S tier, maybe. No, it really I think Sword and Shield is kind of the main way you have to go for tanking. So with that, it gets S tier just because of that. PvP, it's also gonna have its place being a constant buff. You just have so much utility with Sword and Shield. Going over to Warhammer here. This one, I think that's the main weapon. If this was the only weapon you were going to use, I would probably put this down at like a B+, maybe. Because it has so much utility. You got knockbacks and you got stuns. And the only other problem is the animations are slow. The damage is pretty decent, but it just kind of lacks a little bit with the speed and ease of damage, and not being countered. So if you see a Warhammer guy come in, you're gonna know he's gonna hit the ground, and a damage is gonna come straight at you. So just hop to the side. So if you have the ability to look past just like your character in the current fight and look around while you're fighting, you're going to be able to dodge a lot of those abilities. They're going to come in charged up. You're going to see them come and jump forward. So I do think Warhammer is just a little bit slow. I do think it has its place in time, but I'd put A- maybe. So I don't have any of the other weapons that people have been talking about. Void Gauntlet, what do they call that other gun? The blunderbuss, daggers. I'm not going to do any of that because that stuff's not going to be in the game for a while. Maybe I'll make a new list when it comes out, because all of this could change based off of balancing or level 60, because you can get gems that are changing all these abilities. And these two weapons could become best in slot. Who knows? But based off of the 1 to 35, which is what I played the most between all the betas, this is how I feel. I personally, in the betas, was playing Spear Musket or Spear Life Staff. And then in the final beta, I was doing Great Axe Hatchet just to see why everyone was running it. And I could see huge difference in the gameplay when I played with these two. Just huge mobility, huge survival. When I played with my friend, one of them was a healer, and the other guy was playing Great Axe and Hatchet, and he was using Ice Gauntlet a little bit. So there's definitely personal preference here. But I do think I did a pretty decent job here. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button as well. I'm also going to be streaming a ton of New World when it comes out in 8 days here. And go ahead and follow me on Twitch. My name on Twitch is Bewdu. If you go on Twitter, I am twitter.com/BewduBruh, BRUH. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.